Greetings from the Observer Research Foundation. The plurilateral group called BRICS, that is BRICS is Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, has come a long way in the last decade. Its agenda and scope have increased significantly. The flagship achievements of the group have been the establishments of the new development bank and the contingency reserve arrangement. There are also major intra-BRICS cooperation initiatives in various socio-economic sectors. But unfortunately, as with all various international engagements, the BRICS is also affected by COVID-19. Russia took over the presidency of BRICS for 2020 on January 1st. They had planned more than 120 events, but unfortunately, many of them have to be rescheduled. Now, in these circumstances, what are their priorities and what are their challenges? To discuss these issues, we have with us today Dr. Victoria Panova. She is the Vice President for International Relations of the Far Eastern Federal University. She is also the Managing Director for the National Committee of BRICS Research, and she is the head of the Russian delegation for the BRICS Think Tank Council. She is also the Woman 20 Sherpa for Russia, for BRICS. More than anything else, she's a good friend, and I've known her for 10 years, right from the 2010 BRICS Academic Forum. So let's go straight to Victoria and ask her a few questions, and we can have a small discussion. Welcome, Victoria, to the ORF platform, and I hope you are doing fine.
Hello, Viswanathan. Really happy to see you and to greet everybody.
Let me start right away with the question that many of the plans that you had in mind, that's the Russian presidency, will have to be rescheduled this time because of COVID. In view of the pandemic, what do you think will be Russia's priorities and also the challenges during the current year?
Well, certainly. I should say that we had even more events planned that you named. It was closer to 200 total, with second track diplomacy, not only official events. So altogether it was almost 190 or something. So yes, obviously it is a challenge. The last one we had face-to-face was in mid-March, and it was held by Ministry of Economic Development. But by then we already unfortunately had to have our foreign BRICS colleagues join us online. We met at the conference venue, but the rest had to be an online conversation. Other than that, we are living in the 21st century. Yes, internet sometimes lets us down. Yes, we have different platforms that are not always very reliable and sometimes are not very secure for their personal data, but I'm sure this is something that will be worked by our societies, by our governments, and using those opportunities, we moved quite a few events to the online format. So we, of course, are planning to have the events, major events, face-to-face, because this is not only about discussions or not only about delivering your speech, your report, but it's also about having discussions which are face-to-face, which are human, and then they lead to breakthroughs. So academic forum, civil forum that were planned initially for May and June are obviously going to be held, but at a later date. So we cannot tell the exact dates yet, because we're still not a single doctor, epidemiologist even can give us their proper prognosis on when the pandemic is going to calm down worldwide. That is why we are hoping now that we are to have it this autumn, and that's when I will be looking forward to seeing you personally and your team present in Moscow and in Yaroslavl, and also in a number of other cities where we had some events planned, so that you get more flavor of Russia. Other than that, as I said, a number of events are being moved to online format. Our BRICS Expert Council, we are holding events on all topics of concern, all those that are discussed on the agenda by means of roundtables via Zoom or other platforms, and it's been quite successful. It's been so far more of inter-Russian gathering of what experts, civil society think on the matters. Our next step, and we already launched it with the launch of their Civil BRICS site, we will be also holding webinars and roundtables with the involvement of our BRICS friends. So I very much hope you and your team would be joining us for those roundtables. As you know, some of their official track events have also been moved to online format, and we are having, over the coming month, we'll have a number of senior officials meeting in all areas included in health. So the work never stopped. So yes, it introduced extra difficulties, but it didn't kill the process. So just allowed us to use some new technologies and test how it is in the real digital world.
Good. Victoria, right from the beginning, two topics have been very important for BRICS. One is globalization, and the other is multilateralism. Now, because of the situation of COVID-19, post-COVID, both these will, at least in the short term, get a beating, both the multilateralism and globalization. Now, under these circumstances, we may have to kind of redefine and find new definitions for multilateralism and globalization. Will the BRICS presidency be addressing this? And here I understand that the foreign ministers of BRICS countries may be having a video conference very soon. So would they be discussing the question of how to take forward globalization and multilateralism under the present circumstances?
Mm-hmm. I guess you know that there was still no official announcement for their foreign ministers' video conference call, but this issue is being worked through, and so we are waiting for this to be announced, and then we'll have the date and the exact agenda. But I believe, obviously, that this is a prime issue that has to be on the agenda. This is the prime issue that is addressed and now thought through on all levels, be it leaders level, be it ministers, be it us experts, academia, civil society. Especially why we have to look at BRICS those days is that because we saw other fora, international fora, and other seemingly responsible international players not being quite up to the challenge. When we saw their recent video summit of the G20, and then we had the G7 summit also online, there were some decisions taken there, included on how to fight COVID and how to cooperate. And then what we see one of the main players of both those gatherings, Washington, immediately after denouncing WHO, denouncing cooperation, and so that is why we had other mechanisms fail in this regard. And BRICS have special responsibility because in those conditions, those are the countries that can show true leadership. They can show that in our world, yes, before COVID, we were living also in a very difficult situation where we're living through very turbulent times, increasing geopolitical pressure and competition, rising level of possibility of military frictions. What we see now, pandemics didn't really, they made all those issues sound even more acute. But it is not possible just to find someone to blame or to find somebody who has to be responsible for this. This is the situation when all countries have to join together, when they have to fight against this common pandemics, when they have to recognize that the value of one single human life is above any national interest. So this is the COVID-19 times are the times of when national egoisms should die, because if they do prevail, we all are doomed. And this is a problem. And that is why BRICS actually doesn't have any other way out but to show leadership in this regard, in showing that those countries are able to come at certain, first of all, as you said, definition of multilateralism, of what are the limits of sovereign states cooperation, what are the limits to state interest when the time of international crisis comes and actually challenges or threatens the life of all the people. So I think this is bound to be on the agenda. And
in my view, in the post-COVID-19 scenario, health has to be the top priority for all countries. And there, I think BRICS, I'm sure, will give a lot of priority to the sector of health, particularly building capacities in the health sector in the 5 countries.
If you remember...
The other important point also is BRICS may, and some people say will definitely accentuate the gap between the rich and the poor because of the economic slowdown and other factors. And as it is, the Gini coefficients of all the BRICS countries are very adverse. So I think will the Russian presidency attach a lot of importance to this socio-economic factor and see how BRICS can cooperate in this sector?
Well, in fact, you're answering with your second question, your first question. So on the one hand, true. If you remember initially, Russia's priorities were of the BRICS chairmanship was wide across all issues because BRICS is a comprehensive mechanism. So that is why it is possible to discuss all urgent issues that are vital for interests of the 5 countries, but also for the world, especially for the developing world. But obviously current crisis is to shift accents. Of course, it is not to eliminate totally. Earlier you just demonstrated with your question, and then I answered you that global governance, political cooperation, they are enhanced. They are given primary attention because it is vital for countries to stop living in the era of Cold War, in the era of zero-sum game, because this would destroy them. So political cooperation is important. Global governance is important. Social issues, they were on the agenda, and we were very much hoping to have more of human-to-human interactions. Of course, in social aspects, we have more attention shifting to pandemics, to healthcare systems. When we were working on the agenda for our forums, track 2 for civil and academic, like last year, we were more thinking about universal health coverage, because it is also vital for all of our countries and for developing world, the quality of healthcare that is offered. But now we have it accentuated by pandemics. So UHC didn't go anywhere. It is still vital, but it goes along with the higher quality. It goes along with such actually trade issues as with when medicines have to be affordable and also high quality for the people. So, and this is where we also observe quite a severe competition between different countries. And I think India was one of the victims, and one of the good examples of how you fought in WTO on generics issue. We had, yet in Johannesburg in 2018, there was a decision at the initiative of South Africa to launch the Center of Vaccines. So this was not a very active ongoing project. So I hope that because of pandemics, this issue would get more real attention, more practical steps. And also, if you remember, back in UFAT 5 years ago, at the summit, there was a big block of text and a big block of issues that were devoted to healthcare, to fight against pandemics, against new coronavirus, Ebola, SARS, etc. So this was already tackled by the leaders, but it didn't go much further with practical steps. That is why probably this pandemics had to happen for quite a few initiatives, quite a few cooperation schemes to finally to be launched. Another thing within healthcare, which is important, we all are leaders in certain areas, including in high tech. China was the first one to come across this the pandemics, the COVID, and they introduced a number of activities, and also how they used modern digital technologies to help stop spread of their coronavirus. Russia, for example, has one of the best still in world epidemiological services. So there were also a number of activities that were held to prevent fast spread of COVID. As you remember, our countries are helping each other and working on not only just humanitarian help of medical supplies, but I think what is important to get it to the leaders level, that we do have a sustainable and visible initiative that would allow for best practices exchange, some kind of technological transfer between our countries that would help prevent, but obviously all of that also with the help of WHO, because our countries are committed to international system, which is the universal system. And then the third one is economy and trade. It was the third pillar of the Russian chairmanship. And this is what also answers to your second question. COVID is not purely health, not purely infectious diseases spread. It is also about economy, because we saw that in order to save human lives, countries do stop interaction between people. They stop economy. Russia is living for over a month on self-isolation. So there are people, there are services that are working, but majority of people have to work distantly from home when possible. You're doing the same. There was introduced a total lockdown by Prime Minister Modi. what is important, but there are some businesses, small and medium ones, for example, that would be the primary victims, economic victims, after this pandemic finishes, because now they don't really have means, and so different states offer their vision and their type of support so that they can survive. For many countries, and it is true that small and medium businesses are the main driver of the economy. And having those people and businesses active and introducing proper economic stimulus for them and allowing them to survive is important. I think this is also something BRICS have to discuss and share best practices. And I also know that economically, New Development Bank has already offered a tranche to China to fight against COVID. Other BRICS countries, from what I know, Russia was not applying, but other BRICS countries are also applying for some assistance. And this is good that we can provide for some economic help and stimulus from our own means, our own institutions. But also what we need is exchange of best practices, legislation, and how we support those industries and those businesses that were most affected. And this would actually lead to better situation with Gini coefficient being not as drastic, because if we have more businesses that are going bankrupt, small and medium, then it will be more people that are going more poor and more social problems. So I think this is all very much interlinked.
Thank you, Victoria. That was nice talking to you. And I think we have to keep up such conversations as a build-up to the BRICS Academic Forum and the summit. So you keep safe, and let's meet on this platform maybe after another couple of weeks.
Thank you. And please, you remember I sent a letter which could be an example of true network cooperation. It's from the grassroots. It's not from top. So if there are people who could be like in 3D modeling, 3D printing, because this problem is common for everyone. Maybe we can have exchange this platform have this platform of exchange of parts to protect our medical service, doctors, nurses during this fight, to help people get protected during pandemic. So I think this is a good one. Plus, please, we will be launching their Civil BRICS webinars. So I invite you to be active on those 8 areas that we've underlined. Okay?
Thank you, Victoria. Keep safe and stay healthy.
You too. Please stay healthy, you and your loved ones. All the best.
Thank you.
Thank you.